And of course, there is no peace without health. I speak today on behalf of the Radiation and Health Program of the WHO, which is within the Department of Environment, Climate Change and Health, where I have been serving for more than 20 years as a focal point for all matters pertaining to radiation emergencies. Radiation emergencies are a rare type of an emergency. However, consequences of such emergencies may affect the well-being of thousands of people and have very serious environmental and socio-economic impacts. We remember very well nuclear accidents of 1986 in Chernobyl and in 2011 in Fukushima, where thousands of people were relocated. They lost homes, jobs, their health and well-being were affected. Radiation emergency scenarios and their potential impacts can range from an isolated incident with, for example, a misplaced radioactive source or an overexposed patient in a hospital, to a severe mass casualty event involving a nuclear detonation, be it a nuclear weapon or an improvised nuclear device. While the international system and standards for preparedness and response to nuclear emergencies occurring at nuclear installations is well established and applied in many countries around the world, it is much more challenging to be fully prepared for unexpected deliberate act, which may range also from a dirty bomb, a small isolated incident which may affect up to dozens of people, to a full-blown nuclear detonation which may instantaneously wipe off the face of Earth entire city, as it was seen after atomic bombing in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. By the way, next year in August, the world will commemorate 80 years since those tragic events, which took more than 120,000 lives, and health effects of which have persisted for decades. It is needless to remind you that the risk and impact of nuclear emergencies is defined by the sum of their probability and the level of our vulnerability. This is why the efforts and investment in preparedness through strengthening our capacities to prevent, monitor, detect, and respond are of crucial importance. This is especially important for preparedness of health sector, because health workers are in the front lines, saving lives and providing clinical management and public health response in case of radiation emergencies and any emergencies. The international health regulations apply to all types and sources of health emergencies, including radiation emergencies. In line with its mandate to prevent human health, WHO works with its member states to support their efforts for building national capacities pertaining to radiation emergency response. This refers to medical response, including diagnosis and clinical management of persons with radiation injuries, public health response, such as iodine thyroid blocking, sheltering, evacuation, food and drinking water safety, hospitals preparedness, risk communication, and long-term follow-up of exposed people, as well as mental health and psychosocial support in case of radiological and nuclear emergencies. To fulfill its massive role for this specific domain, WHO has established a global expert network called REMPAN, Radiation Emergency Medical Preparedness and Assistance Network. REMPAN is our technical arm. It brings together the world's top experts and leading institutions to work with WHO in rendering support to our member states for preparedness, response, and recovery after such emergencies. Upon request and under coordination of WHO, REMPAN experts come together to develop guidelines, norms, standards, and other tools to support countries to develop their own policies for health sector's response to radiation emergencies, and also deliver multiple training courses for health workers. Radiation emergency response is a multi-sector affair requiring a very solid coordination at the national, regional, and international levels. In doing our work, we work with international organizations, NGOs, professional societies, and other partners. For example, as a full signatory to the International Emergency Conventions on Notification and Assistance in case of a nuclear accident, WHO cooperates and coordinates its work in this area with the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, through jointly developed international norms, standards, and capacity building activities. In order to facilitate such coordination, some 20 international organizations came together, including IAEA, WHO, FAO, WMO, European Commission, Red Cross, and many others, and have formed an international committee for radiological and nuclear emergencies, IACRNE. Another example of WHO collaboration is our work with the International Commission for Radiological Protection, ICRP, which is also an NGO in official relation with WHO, similar like IPPNW. With ICRP, we are contributing to the work of their various committees on different topics and task groups, and notably the task group 120 is developing state-of-the-art report, radiological protection for radiology protection for public in case of radiation emergencies and malicious events. In 2022, in the context of the ongoing military conflict in Ukraine, the ICRP has published an advice for public on protection in case of nuclear detonation. And this advice came very timely because of the increased concerns, especially in Europe, about the potential risk of the use of tactical nuclear weapons. Today, the topic of potential nuclear war is no longer a forgotten heritage from the 70s. Once again, it made its way in the agendas of emergency planners and managers. And today we see many European countries reviewing their response arrangements, conducting modeling and calculation studies, convening scientific discussions, workshops, conferences, and operational exercises based on the nuclear detonation scenario. WHO has addressed the issue of nuclear war back in the 80s. The 1983 WHO report in its second edition, published in 1987 on the effects of nuclear war on health and health services, made a major contribution to international understanding of potential impact of detonation of nuclear weapons on human health, and the impossibility of any meaningful health and humanitarian response in such conditions, and the imperative to prevent nuclear war. It has been widely referred to at the time and also served as a reference point for the international conferences by ICAN campaign of on the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons held in Norway, Mexico, and Austria in 2013 and 2014. WHO has participated and contributed to all of these three conferences, driven by civil society and the governments of these three countries. This collective effort culminated in 2017 in the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which bans the use, possession, testing, and transfer of nuclear weapons under the international law, and in ICANS receiving a well-deserved Nobel Prize for Peace. In 2013, WHO also contributed to the report published by United Nations Institute for Disarmament Research, UNIDIR. A study was called Illusion of Safety, which explored the realities of the preparedness and asked an important question: are we really ready for a nuclear detonation scenario today? I want to mention that over the decades, the focus of global preparedness to radiological and nuclear emergencies has been shifting between various scenarios which were driving the main agenda. At the end of Cold War in the 80s, the main concern was the nuclear power plant emergency scenario after Chernobyl accident, obviously. The first decade of this century was marked by 9/11 events, which contributed to the shift of the focus from nuclear power plants to the more security-focused preparedness plans. After Fukushima, the world was concerned about combined emergencies, nuclear power plant with natural disaster. And later in 20s, we have seen combination of planning efforts focusing on nuclear emergency combined with pandemic scenario. And now, in the third decade of the 21st century, the focus of preparedness made a full circle and came back. A nuclear detonation scenario is now once again on the agenda. It is our utmost priority and duty to make sure that the world will never experience another atomic bombing. We should synergize our efforts to continue advocating for reducing the risk and for strengthening our preparedness. Our message should be loud and clear. There is no place on this planet for nuclear weapons. WHO remains committed to ensuring global health security in the face of all health emergencies, including nuclear disasters. Thank you.